All right, so today I want to talk about why I am going into real estate. And we have to start from questioning, why do people do what they do? And maybe we all have certain goals and aspirations we think we're moving towards. We are pulling in that direction, but life seems to be taking us on this labyrinth where we just kind of have to follow the signs. And when you start to accumulate this kind of life experience, everything starts to fall together in hindsight, and you start to discover your purpose. So for me, I have to say that I hadn't intended on going into real estate. My life took me on these twists and turns that I think a lot of social media, we will prefer to hide our flaws and our downfalls, the fires that we have walked through. And we do this so that we can either, one, focus on the positive and have that manifest in our lives, which I think is a great choice. But the outcome is that now we have an internet filled with people who only have their highlight reels. And now we have these obscured opinions about how life should really be. And that is not the case. Life is always going to be full of those ups and downs. And I think it is important to really assess and put it out there that everyone is going through their problems. Everyone is persevering. And one day you too will either find your purpose, or you're going to know, in the beginning, in the middle, whatever, it's going to come to you, and you're going to realize that, okay, now it's time to put in my 100%. But during that climb, during the search, you might feel like your life is falling apart. Your life is moving in this way where you are not able to juggle. Things feel like everything is shambled. And so it's hard. But hopefully you have social support and your friends and people, your family, whatever, the hobbies you do, the things that give you joy, so that you can balance that. But I'd like to talk about why it is that I am personally going on my journey as a realtor. And it has more to do with, just selling houses. I think that it has to do with a mission, in a sense, to help people. As cheesy as that sounds, but whatever you do in life, you're going to be doing it to serve others if that is your real purpose. And so for me, I thought I was going to become a therapist, and then I went into business with my family. I had a couple franchises, and then I moved to so many different states and locations, and life just kept pulling me in all these directions. I thought I was gonna get into development for real estate. I had some family doing that, and that's when I kind of got introduced to the industry. And now I've moved. I am currently working on my Texas license, and I was just kind of doing it because it made sense. It was just something that I had already started moving towards. I had already gotten my Florida license, and I thought that, okay, the momentum is there, might as well just go for it. Doesn't really matter what you do in life, as long as you keep going, you build your expertise, and then you learn to love it. Kind of like a marriage that you didn't choose, and you kind of just are, you're basically just going with the flow, because now, some Indian cultures, they have this where you kind of just get chosen, or your parents choose, or whatever. And so really, it's a matter of, did you love something? Was it your passion? Did it become even more passionate as you move towards it? Or did the flames burn out? Versus when you have this arranged marriage, it's like, you you chose it, it wasn't really there, and now the passion and fire starts to burn deeper because you start to navigate the environment and starting to recognize why it is you actually wanted to do that particular thing. And so for me, I recognize now that my whole life has been about self-development. And I think a lot of people right now are going through that. We can see that on the internet with everyone's highlight reels, everyone wanting to focus on their health, their fitness, their mindset, using your positive affirmations. We're going through all of these trends right now on the internet. And so, of course, this is kind of an amazing place to be in life, because what are we doing? We are in a period, a zeitgeist, where the growth is so immense among so many people who are gaining this conscious awareness that they can do anything they want with their lives. And now the barriers to entry are so low. Of course, there are certain things you still have to go to school for, to become a doctor, a lawyer, whatever. But at the same time, with the internet, with all this social media, with YouTube, there is so much you can learn. And so really just understanding that you are the creator of your reality, and you are the one that gets to choose what kind of environment, what kind of energy, what kind of stimuli you are putting yourself around, whether that be your friends, your family, your work. Even if it feels like you can't really choose work, maybe you feel stuck in an industry, but you have the potential to go online, find courses, just do whatever it takes to build the skills, because now everyone can do that. And so as you continue to find what are the noises in your life, what are the distractions, maybe are you watching too much TV, or are you around the wrong group of people? Do you find yourself having hobbies that include going out and drinking and partying and doing all these things that maybe they can be productive in certain cities? I know, like in LA, people who party are really just going out and they're networking and they're meeting people. But then in certain cities like Dallas, maybe people will go and they will do activities together, they will meet people. The cultures are so different, and honestly, you cannot judge a person by what they choose. Only you can determine through trial and error what it is that is going to be good for you in your life. And you do so by looking up mentors, looking up people who have done this before you, and basically understanding what kind of blueprint did they create. And so when you do kind of go through this growth journey and you start to recognize why you personally do the things that you're doing and what you can do better, where you are falling and where you want to grow, you have to figure that out, and you have to do a deep audit of your life. Right now I'm following this guy, Dan Martell, and it's amazing because, this guy, he had ADHD, he was diagnosed at a very young age. Basically, people told him he wasn't ever going to do anything, and, he is now millionaire, billionaire, whatever, extremely wealthy and successful, and he is now determining the kind of success that other people can have by creating systems, by sharing the value that he learned to create. And so eventually, and not just him, but a lot of people in positions where they've found their success are starting to do this sort of thing. And so, of course, we should feel honored and special to live in a world where people who have this kind of value to share are going to be sharing this kind of value. But at the same time, understanding that that doesn't take away from your own ability to maximize your blueprint and create something special simply by using many people's blueprints, and then creatively being able to organize something that matches your own DNA. So then it comes to question, why do I want to go into real estate? And after going through this growth process, I realized that I am so sensitive to my environment. I'm so sensitive to energy. I'm so sensitive even just to the cleanliness of my house. It really does affect the way that your mind is able to process information. And the people that are around you, are they wanting to lift you up, or are they toxic and they're playing games? Like, of course you want to be around these difficult environments because it does help you build resilience so that you can be in a place to accept and really navigate those bigger problems that come with more success. So understanding that your environment not only shapes you, but it can make or break the trajectory that you're trying to grow towards. So having cognizance of that, and also understanding that life is about joy and life is about giving and all these things that I am constantly talking about, gratitude, just being in that place of happiness where you don't take life too serious. You understand that the hardships you're receiving are the hardships that you need in order to one up your life. And so you should say thank you to every single thing that comes your way, because now you're a better person. You're version 2.0, 4.0, 10.0. And being able to continually evolve is something really special. And so what happens when we evolve? We move. And life is all about movement. If we are not moving, we are dying. We are not going to be healthy. We are not going to be constantly expanding our minds, expanding the potential of our bodies. And so you're always in a place where you're going to be finding ways to grow and move. So with all this in mind, I recognize that actually being a realtor is symbolic of understanding the joys of life, and it's such a responsibility because you are the one who gets to choose the way that someone is going to surround themselves in certain environments. Of course, you're not the one choosing, but you're facilitating this process. And you see a lot of realtors who they just want to get a quick commission. And of course, we don't want clients who are just going to take advantage and, make you pay for your gas and all of this, blah, 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 and then eventually leave you and not even buy the house. And now you're under. And so I understand, maybe realtors in some sense, they're also trying to protect themselves. But at the same time, you have to recognize that this is a very emotional and a very significant process, because not only is it affecting the way a person lives their life, the community that they are surrounding themselves in, and now the ability for them to grow and become the people that they are trying to be, but you also have to recognize that they're sharing such a special gift with you, that they are trusting you with this kind of authority that will allow you to make or break how the next phase of their life is going to be shaped. And so for someone like me who is very sensitive to my environment, and it's very important for me to take care of myself and surround myself with the right people, and I would rather not be surrounded by people if they're not going to be the right people. And so, I am so careful. I audit so intensely, and that is why I have this extreme passion that I want to make sure that other people are going to also be in a place where they feel comfortable, where they feel like they can grow and continue to find happiness and become the people they want to become. And I think a lot of people don't recognize that it's not just about 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, thinking about the kids and their future, how they're going to grow, maybe the high schools, the friends that they're surrounding themselves with, how the community interacts, and blah, blah, blah. Like, there's a lot of considerations. But at the same time, recognizing that you're the one kind of probing and helping someone recognize that these are things to think about. And it's the symbolic process of choosing the next phase of your life. So with that, I do take a lot of responsibility in helping people as a realtor. I think, I have seen personally realtors who have cheated my family, and this is before I was even getting involved into real estate, when I was working in my family business. And what happened is, we chose realtors. Maybe they were part of our culture, people we thought we were going to trust. And of course, there's nothing good or bad about what they did. It is just business in some sense. I think a lot of realtors are not necessarily as committed to helping people, and they feel like it's more of a transactional process where they're there, maybe they're going to negotiate, they have certain expertise that they can help with, and so being able to just kind of facilitate the process is what it means for them. And so being able to differentiate myself by being someone who has seen different kinds of stigmas and understood, people who are discriminated against and their voices are not heard, and being able to understand family dynamics and how you have to be tactful in the way that you are understanding the priorities of a family. And just there's so many factors that go into being a realtor, and it really is all about understanding human psychology and what are people's needs and their wants and their desires, and being able to bridge that gap and help them fulfill their needs and wants and desires. So it's a really rewarding process if you do take it from that lens. And for me, my family, we have been hurt by realtors who we know maybe we later recognized that they were just trying to make a quick dollar. We thought we could trust them. There were many areas where they broke their fiduciary. They cheated us through omission and, using certain types of tactics to maybe push a sale so that we don't really have the opportunity to assess because they think they know better for what our needs are, versus us being able to come to that through a collaborative process, through communication, through understanding, through respect. And so especially for buyers who they are uneducated and maybe they don't understand that they have certain rights when they are pursuing home ownership. For example, you should be able to choose your home inspector, and you should have the ability to be with the home inspector during the inspection, because now, say for example, you have a realtor who recommends only one inspector, that puts them under liability as well. Because now, if the home inspector didn't see things, or they saw things that were not exactly a priority, or maybe there was collaboration between the brokers, because, especially with these new laws that are happening, that the buyer's agent has to pay, or the seller's agent now has to pay the buyer the commission. And if they don't, then the buyer's agent will need to get their commission from the buyer. And so it creates a lot of pressure for the buyer's agent to play nice and really be on the seller's agent's side. What does that do? It diminishes the fiduciary responsibility, or the responsibility a realtor has towards their client to only defend and be loyal and obedient and disclosing all factors. And there's so many different rules of what it means to be a fiduciary or someone who is for your client. But because of these new laws, and I'm sure there were good reasons for the laws as well, there's always going to be a good and a bad side of each coin. But being able to understand that there will be realtors who are going to fold under that kind of pressure, especially with what's been going on right now. And then there will be realtors who they might just take it, and you just kind of have to figure it out with this new atmosphere. It might be to a point where either your buyer is going to have to collaborate with the commission, and maybe there's like some way that it is put into the purchase price, or like, you know, some sort of creative financing or whatever, but everyone is really getting what they deserve within the deal for what the work they put in within the deal. And also understanding that, you know, the client should be the one who gets to really facilitate the process. The realtors are there to kind of guide and navigate the rules, to, of course, not give any legal advice, but just to help the people on their sides understand what kind of moves are possible. And, you know, just I don't know, like there's a whole host of things. But really what I wanted to get into is that when you do find this new environment where now realtors are encouraged to act within the realtor community and build a network within the community so that they are able to close more deals with their realtor friends, and, you know, finding ways that maybe the buyers are unaware that they are putting in certain requests for repairs that are not actually that big of a deal, and maybe other repairs would have been a big deal, or they were just not really salient at the time because the inspector was also collaborating or colluding. Like, a lot of these things do happen, but it's not something that people will say or even just talk about. But they're not going to talk about it because it's something that happens under the table. Of course, with every single kind of business that you are going to run into, there will be people who are going to break or bend the rules and, you know, try to move in ways that will favor them, that, you know, you can discreetly, even I know in the insurance business, they will use a lack of education to kind of push their agendas onto clients. And so, of course, with every business, you're going to have these kind of people. And so now it comes to a point where you got to recognize that who is the person you're working for, or who's working for you. And also, are they the kind of people who hold or maintain the same kind of ethics as you? Do you feel comfortable having someone who is potentially going to be not fighting for you 100%? Or would you rather someone who is going to have their fiduciary responsibility towards you? They will be your ride or die. They will make sure that you are the ones who are having the fulfillment of whatever it is you need. And of course, there's always going to be a balance between who and what are going to be the types of negotiations that can occur. You know, you have to be a little bit reasonable, and that is the realtor's responsibility, to also prime their clients to understanding what is reasonable and what is not. But in order to do that, you have to start from a level of trust, that you know that your realtor is not going to be telling you that, hey, you know, we have to consider lowering the price this much because of blah, blah, blah. And they don't have it in their heart that they are going to fight for you no matter what. But of course, you know, like, this is just what it is. And so at that point, you have to look for someone who is willing to fight, who is willing to maybe go against the grain, and who doesn't mind a little bit of tension between people. You know, maybe people might not like them as much, maybe the realtors might not like them as much, but at the same time, I think we've gotten to a point where with these new laws, realtors are trying to, not only realtors, but the third parties, the title companies, whatever, like, we're all creating these cliques that we are going to now work with these ones and facilitate. And of course, that's nice. It's healthy to have those, because now you know how the other ones work. And so you're able to move in a way where you've created this machine, you understand each other's processes. That's also very nice, because now you're able to help in ways that can move along the process quicker with less problems. You know what to expect from each other. But at the same time, you also want to have that kind of flexibility that you're giving your clients the choice. And, you know, especially with this kind of atmosphere we are experiencing, realtors who are not necessarily wanting to I guess, be open to the idea of being in a place where other realtors are mad with them, whatever. Like, of course you will have that, but then it's like, what if they blacklist you? What if they're just gonna try to push you out of the community? And that is a real thing that realtors might worry about. So then it comes to question that why should it be like that? Why can't it be like, a lawyer who they might be friends with another lawyer, but at the same time, they're going to do the best for their client. So I'm hoping that with this kind of mindset, eventually, and of course, I'm not within the community right now, I could be saying the complete opposite. I'm sure there are different ways of acting within the group. And so it's really just more about finding your tribe and understanding who it is that you want to work with and who are your collaborators and what kind of ethics they will maintain. And so being able to be on that kind of mindset and having the ability to really just choose the right people is very important. So yeah, with that, I leave you. I just wanted to have some thoughts of why it is I want to go into real estate. I would love to be in a place to fight for my clients, to make sure that they are finding their best home at the best deal, because these kind of things are very important to me. I know what it means for people to be discriminated against, to not have choices, and I guess I find it very important to fight for the little people, and if that means creating some tension, okay. But at the same time, I would hope that on my realtor journey, I'm going to find realtors who are also on the same wavelength and who also will be willing and able to fight for their client. And really, it's more of a playful thing that now, okay, we're all looking for the best deal. We're all looking for a win-win solution. And when you're looking for a win-win solution, no one can lose. So again, with that, just a couple thoughts. I leave you adieu. Lots of love and good vibes. Peace.